Is WWE about to make some huge changes to the WrestleMania 41 card? Well, we know that's going to take place on April 19th and 20th in Las Vegas, night 1 and night 2. And we know that there's already one of the main events that seems to be set. That's Jey Uso, who won the Men's Royal Rumble, is going to challenge Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. Beyond that, there's still a lot of questions about this card, and based on some recent reports, it sounds like WWE may be considering making some swaps to their initial thoughts on what the card should be for WrestleMania 41. We talked about it a lot, right? Really, when you think about this entire card, everything started with what we now know is all but official, with The Rock not going to be a part of this WrestleMania as an active competitor, right? We would go all the way back to WrestleMania 40 last year. Rock pins Cody Rhodes on night 1. Cody wins the title on night 2, and you're thinking, okay, at some point, it just connects the dots, right? The Rock is going to face Cody Rhodes for the WWE Undisputed title. Well, we've never gotten that match, and we did get the hug between The Rock and Cody, and they were all good friends on the Raw Netflix debut, simply just sort of dropping things, at least for the time being, right? But again, it all comes back to The Rock. We were thinking about all the different matches you could have. You could do The Rock versus Roman. You could do The Rock versus Cody. You could do a triple threat match, right? So many different possibilities for The Rock at WrestleMania 41. But without The Rock, you look at kind of what has happened to the card. WWE's had to make some key decisions as to what these main event matches are going to be. Like we said, it all starts with Jey winning the Rumble. Now, that gives Jey an opportunity to challenge for one of the titles. We knew it wasn't going to be against Cody. He made it official that it will be against Gunther. Okay, that takes those two out, right? But then things get a little tricky because you then only have, at most, probably one or two challengers for Cody Rhodes for the WWE Undisputed title. Well, as we've said many times, that Elimination Chamber match is filling up quickly with star power. We already know some of the names that are going to be in there, but we also know that John Cena is going to be the favorite in that match. No matter who else is in there and added the rest of the way, John Cena is going to be the favorite to win it because, this is the farewell tour, right? It's John Cena's last opportunity to break the record, the 17th world title victory, all that. And you would expect that WWE would want that on the biggest stage of them all at WrestleMania, to have that as the hook, right? Well, again, going back to some of these recent reports from WrestleVotes, one of the reports this week was that it has been sort of rumored that there are some within WWE who would like to see CM Punk added into that match, perhaps with Cody Rhodes versus John Cena. If you've watched this channel, you know we brought up this idea not long ago, right? Could this be something where CM Punk's favor plays into him getting into that Night 2 match with Cody and John Cena? Because we know the history with Cody, we know the history with John Cena, and if you tie it all together, Cena's last opportunity maybe to win that World Championship at a WrestleMania, break the record, but he's got to go through one of his biggest rivals in WWE history, and that's CM Punk. It sounds like a great idea in theory, right? And we mentioned all the different things. Okay, maybe Punk is still part of that match on night 1 with Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, which has been speculated, right? And then maybe he still finds a way into the match on night 2 by winning it. All those different things. How does the favor with Paul Heyman come in and all that? So now that we know, at least there is a report out there, that there are some who would love to see Punk added into the mix with Cody versus Cena. Well, is that going to be something where this card starts to change a little bit more? Because what if that happens, right? Then that kind of leaves you with Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins potentially as a WrestleMania match on night 1. Maybe Punk just by himself, he doesn't have to be in the match on the first night. Maybe he just gets added into the second night. But you got to figure out, how do you work that with the Elimination Chamber? Both are in there, Punk and Cena. Are you going to do a draw? Are you going to do some sort of contested finish? Maybe, but it's an Elimination Chamber, right? You feel like you kind of want a defined sort of finish to that match to make it clear who is going to face Cody at WrestleMania 41. There's lots of stuff here when it comes to the way this thing could work out, but I think it does kind of tie in some of the things we talked about. If you are going with the idea that's going to be Cody and John Cena, well, can Cena wrestle at this point in his career a big major match that you, again, fully expect to go 20-plus minutes in a main event setting, like the biggest match of WrestleMania 41. The Night 2 match is always the biggest one, right? Can you expect Cena to do that? And that's where I mentioned before, the idea of a triple threat gets you out of that a little bit because it allows someone else to do some more of the work to where Cena is not having to just have the spotlight on him, right, for 20, 25-plus minutes maybe in a WrestleMania main event. So I can see why there are some, based on this report, people within WWE pushing the idea that Punk should be added to this match, because I do think it makes it more intriguing from the standpoint of the history between all the competitors involved and knowing the history specifically between Punk and Cena and Punk and Cody, there is a lot you can do with that. And it does give Punk that WrestleMania main event. But again, it's not just about that for CM Punk. He wants to main event WrestleMania. But how sweet it would be if somehow he main events WrestleMania and wins the WWE Undisputed title. And how does Paul Heyman come into that? What does Roman Reigns think about it? What does Seth Rollins think about it? These are all dynamics that you have to work with on that particular front. But there's also another report out there. Dr. Chris Featherstone of Sportskeeda had a report out there that it seems like WWE is also maybe reconsidering things for Drew McIntyre. Because we know coming out of the Rumble, there were all the rumors online about McIntyre storming off, being upset, pissed off at someone for how the elimination worked out at the Rumble, which he was eliminated by Damian Priest, and it seemed clear at that point they were working towards a Drew McIntyre Damian Priest type feud. Eventually it comes out that LA Knight, may have been that someone kind of getting the finger pointed at him in that scenario. Again, what's real, what's not real. With Drew McIntyre, you never know these days. This guy's such a great heel, you just don't know. But if the idea was that Drew McIntyre was going to be in a match with Damian Priest or LA Knight, in either one, at WrestleMania, then, well, is that enough for Drew McIntyre, who had one of the best years probably of any WWE heel, not named Roman Reigns, in quite a while last year? He had the feud of the year with CM Punk, in my eyes. They were the best of the best last year in terms of how they pulled this off. And now, I think having a match against a Damian Priest or an LA Knight, like we said, whatever combination you want to work with there, it does feel like maybe that's not what Drew McIntyre should be doing right now, right? And so when you think about how that could factor in, what could they do with Drew McIntyre to kind of make some switches, maybe to, his projected spot on the card? And do they just make it as simple as McIntyre versus Priest? Because you can play into the WrestleMania 40 stuff and all that. But does that feel big enough? And that's not a knock on Damian Priest. It's just I think that the level that Drew McIntyre has elevated himself to. So there's so many people, right? Whether it's Punk, McIntyre, even Roman and Seth at this point. What is kind of the best spot for them on this particular card? And that's where I go back to The Rock. Because if you do really think about this, this could have been a very easy sort of setup for WWE, right? To have The Rock slotted in, either against Roman, against Cody, or both, and then think about all the different dynamics you have to work in beyond that. Do you have Cena challenge Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship? Does Punk to somehow get involved with that, right? And then you could have, somehow in some combination had Punk and Reigns. You've got McIntyre, Rollins. You've got all sorts of different things you can work with in that spot. But you see how The Rock not being part of it has maybe made this a little more complicated. And I know there are people out there pushing for the idea, hey, just have Punk win the chamber. Have Cena do something else. In my opinion, yes, that's certainly an option. But I wonder from WWE's perspective, not having Cena going for the championship, that's sort of the highest stakes you could have at this WrestleMania 41. Given the history with John Cena, it's the farewell tour. We know all that. And the thing is, I don't think Cena's going to win the title at WrestleMania, no matter what the combination is. But I think having him in that match, it's such an easy sell because you're going for the record. It's the farewell tour. You only get to do this one time, right? And so it does make sense, I think. Whether, we can talk about Cena hasn't earned it. He just, basically put himself in the Elimination Chamber. He's not had to go through the qualifiers like Punk and all that, but that could add to the story. If Cena gets that championship and, he just wins one match by putting himself in the Elimination Chamber, Punk can play with that, and maybe there is a way you can put Punk into that, or maybe the B's just going to say, hey, no, we're going with the two sort of golden boys, right? John Cena of his era, Cody Rhodes now of this era, we're going one-on-one. It's what we want, right? You want that one-on-one type match in a WrestleMania. I've always been kind of traditional like that. I like the one-on-one matches, but when you really think about what CM Punk maybe would add to that match, both from a storyline standpoint and just from the standpoint of the match itself, I do think it's very appealing for WWE to consider this. Will they do it? I don't know. But again, you have to get through the Elimination Chamber, and that's where things maybe get a little tricky because you're probably going to have a clearly defined winner coming out of that. And do you add Punk into it after the fact? Is that where the favor comes in with Paul Heyman? Is WWE considering any of this, right? Or is this kind of speculation as we usually get this time of year? So we're going to find out. But I do think, this card is not as simple anymore as maybe it could have been had you either had The Rock involved in this or, again, you kind of make a different change to where Cena's not in a championship match, but I just don't think they want to do that given the stakes involved. And I know some people also say, well, you could have probably, maybe changed this a bit had you not had Jay win the Rumble. But now, by having Jay win the Rumble, he is slotted into one of those world championship matches. And so that takes out, another potential Gunther opponent. Like we said, Cena may be going for a Gunther, which is one idea I proposed probably 6+ months ago. I just thought that was one to me that I thought was more appealing than Cody at the time, and maybe still do in a certain sense, because you kind of have Gunther as just this unbeatable force, versus John Cena. It's like I mentioned, it's like the Rocky story, right? You've got Rocky versus Drago. Like, that's kind of how it would have felt a little bit in that spot, just knowing it's Cena's final run here and everything like that. But what's going to happen? Is WWE going to add Punk to the Night 2 main event? Will that come via Paul Heyman's favor? What are they going to do with Drew McIntyre? Are there going to be any other changes to the card? It seems like there's a lot of stuff out there right now brewing when it comes to what WWE could do with this WrestleMania 41 card. And I want to know what you guys think. How do you think this should play out? Do you think it should still be Cody versus John Cena, which again seems to be the most likely scenario based on everything we know right now? Cena winning the Elimination Chamber, going on to challenge Cody. Do you think it should be Punk versus Cody? Do you think it should be the triple threat? What other options do you see out there? If that's the case, if Punk's involved, do you do Roman and Seth straight up in a match? Kind of a grudge match between those two. What do you do with Drew McIntyre? Should he still face Damian Priest or have LA Knight involved? Or what else is there for Drew McIntyre? There are so many things, again, you can do kind of with these guys who are at the top, and you have so many kind of over main eventers right now. Some of these guys may feel a little slighted based on where their spot is on the card, just based on how many guys that are kind of, again, reach that elite level of overness in WWE. So I want to know what you guys think. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Always appreciate your feedback. As again, it's just there's so many wild ways I think we can get to this WrestleMania 41 card, but is WWE going to make some changes? We're going to find out here soon. But again, guys, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button on the way out. Let me know your thoughts on what you think about some potential changes to the WrestleMania 41 card, and what are the matches you want to see at WrestleMania 41 in Las Vegas.